transitioning a little bit, going to the lard, because I did want to talk on that, because when we did the tour, we talked on the pigs and the environment and all the feed and whatnot, and then actual protein, but then skincare, because tallow is skyrocketed like crazy. And I'm curious to hear from your experience too, because this goes back to the perception of the pig and how we see them as these dirty things, but then now you see lard and just be like, why would I put pig fat on my skin? So I'm just curious to talk on just all of lard, the actual biology of it all, because if I remember correctly, we're more aligned with pigs too, to where lard's actually really good for our skin.
Yeah, I hope I remember to touch on all of the things that I want to touch on, because this is super, super interesting to me. I started making the moisturizer back when I lived in Chicago, and I got all my pork from the same farm, and so it just made sense to get the lard. And I didn't think too much into it other than I wanted to make the lard-based moisturizer. I thought it would be good. I made it, I loved it, and then I just knew that whenever I raised my own pigs, that's what I wanted to do. And it is like something that became super, super popular, like before the tallow craze. And so I have so many thoughts. One, it's like, why lard? First of all, I just want to say, like, I will support all animal-based skincare over using plant-based skincare. Okay, so that's first of all. But lard is more similar. So like the chemical makeup of lard is very similar to the sebum, the oil in our skin that we produce. So it makes it more biocompatible, and it makes a lot of sense because if you think about like the digestive system of a cow, they're ruminants, and they're also herbivores versus like a pig that's monogastric omnivore, they're just more similar to us. And then you start thinking about medicine, and you start thinking about what kind of parts are used in surgeries. And it's pig parts. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like you need, okay, so you have breast implants, and your implant slips or something. They use pig skin then to like put your breast implant back up. Yeah. Or if you need like some sort of stitches that are not on top of your skin, if it's underneath of your skin, they will stitch it with pig intestines. So it's like in medicine, it's always pig because it's so similar to humans. And so it makes sense why the lard would be so amazing for our skin. And then beyond that, it's like the heritage breed pigs that we raise, they have a lot of excess fat, like they just do. And that's why lard has historically always been used for cooking or for skincare, because off of a pig, you get more fat than what you could eat with the protein. And that's just the way that it works. But then when you start to look at grass-fed beef, a lot of times, so they're leaner. So ruminants are just leaner animals generally. And so like a lot of times when we get our beef back from the processor, there's no extra beef fat. Like all of the beef fat either was left on the cuts or went into the grind to make sure that it was a good ratio of, protein to fat in the grind. So there's not a lot. And I was very, very curious about this. So I actually did even reach out to like White Oak Pastures, and I was like, hey, how much excess beef fat do you get off of a cow after everything's gone into the grind or whatever? And I should have checked I still have it in my DM somewhere, but I want to say it was that they said like between like 8 and 15 pounds. That is like not a lot of extra fat from a cow. When I'm talking about, so a cow that weighs, say the hanging weight is 600 pounds. Okay, you're getting 15 pounds of fat from 600-pound hang weight animal versus like our pigs, say their hang weight is 250 pounds. And then we're probably getting like 30 pounds.
Oh my gosh. That's weird.
Of fat,
yeah,
maybe 40. I mean, depending on the time of year, when it's fall and they're eating a ton of acorns, they're like really fat. Like they have a lot of fat on them. So it doesn't, I don't know. I guess I don't know where all the tallow is going to come from. I mean, if it's grass fed, of course, there's a ton of excess beef fat in the commercial, grain fed and feedlots. Like there's a ton of beef fat and that can be used, but I don't know where all of the grass fed tallow will come from for the skincare. So I think for me, it's like multiple reasons. It's like, pigs have a lot of excess fat. We need to use it anyway. And it's more biocompatible with our skin.
Whenever customers come, I'm just curious just to hear on that too. Do people? It might be different now that we're in rural Maryland versus Chicago, for example. But I'd just be curious if people are just kind of like pig lard skincare. What is that? Do you ever get that?
Yeah, so the biggest question I get right now as tallow is becoming more popularized is like, what's the difference between lard and tallow?
Yeah.
And I'm sure, I'll just say it so that everybody knows, like tallow is beef fat and then lard is pig fat. But yeah, sometimes people are very confused, like why would I put lard on my skin, or animal fat in general? Like they're kind of like, don't really understand, or some people could be. I remember when I first launched the lard-based moisturizer, I was trying to get like a couple wholesale accounts, and I got an email from one of them that did not want to carry it, and also then proceeded to tell me how nobody would want to buy it because it says lard on the jar and people will be turned off by that. Which I do think that they had somewhat of a point, but I also don't think that they clearly weren't like a skincare, on the skincare trends of seeing the future that like animal-based skincare would become so popular. So I think there's that too, but I think it's like, I try to explain it that all moisturizers are made up of fatty acids. Like, so if you look at the back of the ingredients, it's just going to be, it's not going to say lard or tallow. It's going to say like stearic acid, or, you know what I mean? One fatty acid within the whole fat.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool with the tallow and lard is that it's a whole fat. Like people are so into like whole foods, using the whole thing. So it's like, why would you take apart a fat into fatty acids and then recreate a moisturizer versus just using the whole fat on your skin?
Is lard the number one thing you use to cook?
Yes. Yeah, lard's the number one thing I use to cook.
I needed to use that more. I actually have not really cooked lard with much, actually. Is there any difference in the smoke point for that versus other animal fats?
The lard has a higher smoke point than tallow.
Oh, so it's even better.
Yeah, it does have a higher smoke point. I love the lard. Like I use it for sautéing, and then I use it for the frying a lot, and I use it for even like when I made those steaks for the dinner. I sous vide them and I put lard in with them. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah.